Narcissist, Seduction, Episode 9. The balance of the week followed a repeated timetable in terms of their involvement with one another. Every morning, just after 8 a.m., Wynn's phone would announce the arrival of a message from Ashley. He had changed the setting on his phone so that a winking, golden light would declare any message from her. Each time he would return to his device and see the gold-coloured light flashing at him, he would smile, knowing that she had got in touch with him. The first text of each day from her would always invite him to telephone her. "Call me, kiss, kiss, kiss. Call, ? Kiss, kiss, kiss. Ring? Kiss, kiss, kiss." She never rang him, but it didn't concern him as to why that was. He would do so, and they would talk, her at the wheel of her car on hands-free, him either at the office or on his way there, for the remainder of her journey, until she reached Novo Bank. Once she reached the car park, she would say her goodbyes, and Wynn would then embark upon his day's work. An hour would rarely pass before the first of a flurry of messages would arrive. Each day they would exchange texts back and forth throughout the day, a hiatus only arising when one of them had a meeting. Some might find it a distraction, but Wynn, capable as he was, readily discharged his role in the bank, periodically replying to Ashley's texts. Sometimes their conversations continued what they had been discussing on the telephone that morning. On occasions it would be a diatribe from Ashley about Peter's lengthening catalogue of hateful behaviours against her. She would recount an argument from the night before, or drag up something reprehensible that he had done in the past, but which she remembered as clearly as if it had happened the day before. Wynn would always answer straight away, if he were able. He would offer support and empathy to her complaints, all the while delighted to read of another hateful wedge driven between them. The passage of texts might revolve around a quiz, as he tested her on one of her favoured bands. Those quizzes were always done on the implicit understanding that she stayed away from Googling the answer on her desktop computer. In between these conversations, she would insert her proclamations of desire for him. He had never experienced this before, and revelled in each message, which was another digital delight that pleased him. The messages were laden with desire and compliments, always followed by the 3 kisses. "I've never known happiness until I met you. Say we will always be together. This is so wonderful. You are so wonderful. I think about you all the time. We have to be together. I wish we had met 20 years ago. We have so much to do together. I have never known a love like this. You complete me. Tell me we can live together in total happiness. This is what I have always wanted. You are my soulmate." The messages were extensive. It was almost like a bombardment, but one that was born out of love rather than hate. He had never experienced it before, and it felt wonderful. Every time he saw the golden light flare, he felt a little surge of delight, knowing it was the latest wonderful message from Ashley. Often he wanted to be the first to send her a delightful message, but the stream of seduction from her was incessant. He had just completed a meeting. It had run for 2 hours, and when he checked his phone, he found 30 messages, all in a similar vein. How wonderful they were together, and that this was beyond anything she had ever known before. Wynn smiled and typed in a message. "How are you? Just wishing your board of directors would move your team onto my floor so I can be near you," came the reply. On another occasion, he had advised her that he had an all-afternoon meeting with the bank's auditors. When he checked his phone after the lengthy meeting, he found the following message. "Tell them to hurry their audit up. I want my man back." Twice that week they had met for lunch. They convened in the same pub as before. They sat at the same table. as their first lunch there, away around the corner from the other patrons. They talked, kissed, holding hands and hugging one another. It felt good. It felt good to be wanted by this desirable, intelligent and charismatic lady. On her way home, they would talk again as she drove the 30 to 40-minute journey to her village, sometimes collecting her daughter from a sports class after school. He would remain at the office, conversing with her. They never ran out of anything to talk about. There were no awkward pauses or delays. They fitted together perfectly. He would listen to her concerns, and demonstrating the honest, supportive manner she had said he was known for, suggest ways of surmounting the hazards which were vexing her. Invariably, she would often say, "If only I had got with you when I first arrived at the bank." This comment had arisen from when they had had their first ever conversation at the bank's Christmas party in 2001. He had been at the other end of the country on bank business, a rising star within the bank, and repeatedly putting to shame more senior colleagues with the level of business that he was securing. He had dropped his pilot case at the office and availed himself of the toiletries that he kept for instances such as this, cleaning his teeth and washing so he felt a little fresher, before making his way to the waterfront bar where the bash was taking place. He was still in his suit, although most of his male colleagues were. It tended only to be the back-office male juniors and the female banking staff that got changed into party outfits. Seeking to catch up with at least 2 hours' worth of libation that had taken place without him, although he had taken advantage of a few beers on the train, he got stuck in and was regaling a small group containing members of his department with an entertaining anecdote when he saw Ashley. He recalled that she had joined about 3 months prior from Commerce Bank because his own boss was involved in speaking to her about her covenants. He had not met her previously, but he had looked her up on the bank's intranet. Now she walked from the bar, a mane of golden curled hair tumbling down her back, a shoulderless top on and leather trousers. He was impressed. She joined the group and listened attentively as he continued with the story. She remained until it was just the two of them. He found her attractive, and this was heightened by the way she seemed utterly engrossed in what he was saying. He enjoyed their conversation, asking about her area of expertise and what she hoped to gain from joining the bank. Thinking back to that evening, he was surprised that he hadn't made a play for her, although he suspected it had been too early in the night, and he had not consumed enough, remaining in control of his desire at that point. Despite that enjoyable encounter, he gave her no further thought, and their paths thereafter rarely crossed. They were on different floors of the bank, and indeed used different entrances, so the chances of him bumping into her were remote. Their interaction was shoved deep into his memory. It was only when they had been talking about how long she had been at Novo Bank that she brought up the first time that they had met. The memory surged to the surface, and he recalled it vividly. She had confessed that she had wanted to kiss him on that evening, but was unsure of doing so because he was senior to her, and she had only just arrived at the bank. He had responded, explaining he had no idea she had been interested, but admitted that he had been attracted to her too. Following this admission, Ashley had scolded him, saying he ought to have done something about it, and then they could have had 10 years together already, and she would not have had to have endured Peter. He remembered thinking that it was a strange remark to make, and certainly odd in the way that she seemed angry at him for not doing something at that first meeting. There was no guarantee that they would have formed a relationship. They were both married, and it was bizarre for her to think that based on one conversation, that they would have left their respective partners for one another. He said as such, albeit in watered-down terms to her, but she was adamant that if he had made a move for her, she would have accepted, and they would have become an item in the swiftest of time. Her certainty was iron-clad. Accordingly, the week rolled by. Each day it followed a pattern of telephone calls, texts, lunch, and a final telephone call. Then, unfortunately, came the evenings. They were empty of her, and he found himself realizing that he did miss their exchanges, even though it was so early in this. Well, what was this? It was no relationship. Fling didn't seem the right word. It wasn't just shagging, as they had done no more than kiss and grope. No, it was a beginning. Yes, he found himself missing her in this beginning. He would fill some of the void, devising humorous voicemails to leave for her, adopting the persona of someone else and leaving a witty speech, usually making fun of some item that they had discussed the previous day. When she finished speaking with him in the morning and then attended to her desk, he would wait 5 or 10 minutes before he would receive a confirmatory text from her declaring his latest creation to be hilarious, or I can't breathe for laughing, or I love it, you are brilliant. There would then be an hour of silence before the first battery of texts as their daily exchange cranked into life. By Thursday, the additional SIM card that he had ordered for her had arrived. He handed it to her when they met for lunch, and she immediately replaced it in her phone, activating it and ensuring he had the number added to his directory. "What will you put it under as?" she had asked, as she leant against him, peering at his phone. He paused for a moment, considering the question, then began typing. "Queen," she declared, as he finished the entry. "Mm-hmm," he confirmed. "Why Queen? You're from Queensborough, aren't you?" She nodded. "Queen it is, then." "Queen to my king," she replied with a smile and kissed him. "I cannot believe I found you again after all this time," she added. "Well, you have." "I know. I adore you, Ian. I truly do. You are everything I have ever wanted. I just wish I had done something earlier." "It's of no matter," he said. "Who knows what might have happened if we had entwined earlier? I doubt I had the maturity back then to have sustained our relationship. It's probably for the best that it's happened now." "Do you think so?" she asked, slipping her arm around his and leaning her head on his shoulder. "Yes, it might have failed before. We've both suffered at the hands of abusive people. This is our reward now." "Yes, it is," she agreed. They both paused. "Will we get through this? Tell me that we will," she pressed. "Yes, I'm here for you," he replied. "Always?" "Of course." "You are my rock, Ian. You truly are." He had lain on his bed that Thursday night, replaying the conversation in his mind. He closed his eyes as he recalled their repeated embraces, oblivious to anybody else who might be in the pub. He found nervousness descend on him as he ran through the day's events once more. No, not nervousness. It was excitement. It felt, after so many years of building a wall about himself, that he was awakening. That was it. He was learning to feel again. He sat up and reached for the notepad he kept on the bedside cabinet. Picking up a pen, he began to make a list of all the things he knew about Ashley, her attributes, her likes and dislikes. He would weave them into a song to sing to one of her favourite rock tracks. He would then leave it for her as her next daily voicemail. She would love it. He reached to the laptop and brought up one of the songs she had repeatedly mentioned to him. He let it play, listening to the music as he began to form an opening sentence to accompany it. There was the chime from his phone, and he smiled as he saw the light was golden. He grabbed his phone and opened the text. "Quick, tell me something about me, one word. Kiss, kiss, kiss." His smile broke into a grin. It was 9:15 p.m, and for the first time since this beginning of theirs, she had texted him in the evening. "Scintillating, kiss, kiss, kiss," he typed, and then sent the message. There was no response, but he didn't expect one. Instead, he was elated to have heard from her, and he resumed his songwriting with a renewed vigour. This song would thrill and charm her. If Peter did not want her, then more fool him. He would gladly step up and look after her. He would continue to be the white knight to the blackness of Peter. He didn't have to force a division between husband and wife. Peter was perfectly capable of achieving that himself. All Wynne had to do was be himself, and she would come. It was written in the sky above.